Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Mike Wallace. I'm the town manager, and I'm going to kick us off for tonight's event. I'd like to welcome all of you, and I'm glad to see so many of you here tonight, and glad you could join us for the State of the State event. And I don't think we could have picked a better venue. This is absolutely gorgeous. And Andy, where are you? Where are you hiding? Fantastic. So I'll be brief. I'm just the opening act, but I do have a few things that I want to say, and I'd like to first start with thanking the Shoreline Chamber for their help and assistance. We certainly couldn't have done that, pulled this off without them. And in addition to the Chamber members that we have present here tonight, we are honored to have our EDC members, and I know they're sprinkled throughout the room, so where are those individuals, the EDC members from North Branford Economic Development Commission? There you are. Thank you. And our town council members, they're in attendance here, and a few of those members. We have town hall staff members as well, scattered about. Owners and managers of local businesses, as well as development professionals from various towns and organizations. So I'd just like to recognize all of you for coming tonight as well. And of course, again, to recognize and thank Andy for this opportunity to showcase this beautiful, beautiful venue. And of course, your staff for making it happen. And we feel it's going to be and is a beautiful attraction for North Branford. So thank you for having us. And finally, just like to acknowledge our sponsors for this evening, Guilford Savings Bank. Thank you very much. I know that they're strong presence here. And Jake Cakes for providing the desserts. So shout out to Jake Cakes. Thank you all for making this event possible, and hope you enjoy this evening. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Mayor of North Branford, Jeffrey McMillan, who's going to introduce our guest speaker.
Good evening, folks. What a great venue, huh? I mean, are we happy to have this in town? Fantastic. Well, I want to thank David for joining us today. We're North Branford's pretty special, being a small town, and really digging into EDC and understanding the importance of it. This is the third time David's been our keynote speaker, and I think it's important to know that he's taking time to be in towns like this that really trying to make a difference, particularly in manufacturing and other areas of economic development. David's part of the commissioner. He serves as commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Economic Community Development, the state agency that oversees a wide range of promoting business growth, brownfield redevelopment, the arts, historic and preservation, and tourism. Davis also serves as the governor's senior economic advisor. Works hard to make sure that the public and private partnerships between the DECD and the advanced CT really provide a new economic development delivery model to the state. And David's development priorities include help building building our urban centers, engines of growth, furthering the state's innovation to environmental ecosystems, and strengthening the state's workforce and pipelines. David comes from a background with Goldman Sachs, former head of head of real estate and finance. Really exciting to have him here today and enjoy North Branford in this event and kick it off. So David, without further ado, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Mayor. Let me just start by saying, I think the first time I was in North Branford, Roger invited me in. It was a early breakfast where I think there may have been some day-old bagels. He said, you gotta come back, we gotta check out this new facility, but this is awesome. So Andy, this is a phenomenal facility. Really proud to be here. Look forward to coming back and checking out the raw bar you mentioned with the better half. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good, all right. it's great to be here, Mayor. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm going to try not to bore folks. I told Roger I typically have some slides when I do my State of the Stage spiel. He said, no, not tonight. Too classy a venue for slides, so we're not going to do it. So I'm going to try not to talk at you too much, but I do think there's some data that's important that we do go through. And in terms of where the state is, in terms of jobs, in terms of economic growth, where we've come over the past few years, in particular with the pandemic, and a bit about the future. So maybe first let's start on that. So first, the pandemic obviously ravaged the Northeast, hurt the tri-state area in particular quite hard. If you look at Connecticut, we still, our labor force is roughly 97% of where it was pre-pandemic. There's still around 50,000 jobs that we need to recover. The Connecticut economy is picking up roughly 5,000 jobs per month. So it should take us less than a year, but it's been a bit slow. The U.S. is at around 99% of its pre-pandemic labor force. And where does 97% put us? It puts us in line with the region, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. New York's still a little bit behind, but the region in general has recovered a little bit less fast than the country. But if you look at the data through the pandemic, the state actually performed very, very well in terms of jobs in 2020 and the early part of 2021. We've slowed down a little bit lately. And a lot of that was the pandemic decision-making and the framework that I think the governor had, trying to keep as much of the economy open as possible. The mayor mentioned the focus on manufacturing. Connecticut, unlike other states, kept manufacturing open, kept construction open, kept parts of the retail market open. We tried to make sure there was enough, as much economic activity as possible happening while still maintaining a real focus on public health. So you saw a very strong jobs number relative to the neighborhood, if you will, in 2020. A little bit less strong at the end of 2021, but we picked up a bit lately. So we continue to track that. Where does that put us? Our unemployment rate's around 4.6% versus the country at 3.6%. Not where we want to be, but that has actually improved a little bit lately. The real issue from a jobs perspective is actually labor force. Connecticut has labor force participation right now around 64%, which is still down roughly 250 basis points from where it was pre-pandemic. We're still above the country, but you haven't seen a lot of folks re-enter the labor force. And we really need that. To fill the 100,000 jobs that are out there, we need to see more folks either come into the state or come back into the labor force. So that really is the big issue. When I think about long-term economic growth for the state, it's attracting new residents, but making sure we get our labor force participation, because we are an older state, we want to make sure we get that participation rate very, very high. Traditionally, we've had a very educated workforce, very high participation rate, but that has lagged a little bit. So we can talk about that. These things are not easy to turn right back on, but ultimately that's going to be really key to our success over the next generation or so. Excuse me. Let me just talk a little bit about GDP in terms of economic growth. So one thing we track on a pretty regular basis is output, is gross domestic product. And the state has, if you look over a very long time period, the last 10 years, the state's economic performance was not great, in particular because of the financial services sector. Real economic growth was actually negative in the decade ended 2020. That's the bad news. The good news is it's improved. Are we in the top quartile right now? We're not. Last year we were 35th of 50 states in terms of economic growth. Again, not where we need to be, but materially better where we were in that 49th, 50th percent, or 50th out of 50 states beforehand. In the last quarter we were actually 14th or 15th with a 7.7% growth on an annualized basis. So we track it on a pretty regular basis. What's important here is making sure that the industries we're focused on, like financial services, insurance, manufacturing, life sciences as well, continue to grow. And financial services in particular is a place that I think we need to focus more on. In particular, that next generation of technology that's disrupting traditional insurance, traditional investing, asset management, because that's going to be important, and that's an area where we've actually been losing a few jobs. So we want to make sure that we're focused at DECD and the governor's team. Advanced CT, our partner, many of those folks are in the room as well. So happy to take any questions on that. But GDP growth has been stronger than it was. Again, still not exactly where we want it to be, but the trend has been quite positive, led by financial activities, manufacturing, durable and non-durable, as well as a few other sectors. One of the things that I think is really interesting, just shifting in terms of prospectively when I think about Connecticut and the economic opportunities here, we've seen record business formation. So we track businesses that are forming and they have an EIN number, they intend to hire people and create jobs. And for the preceding decade, every month roughly 700 to 800 new businesses were formed in the state of Connecticut on average. Very, very consistent line. That number is now 1,100. So you've seen a 40% increase It increased roughly 20% in the year 2020, and then another 20% in 2021. So you're seeing, and those numbers are consistent. The country has seen a lot of new business starts given COVID, great resignation. People are doing different things, creating home businesses online. A lot of disruption technology-wise has happened in a very short period of time. But the good news is we're seeing that in Connecticut as well, and you're seeing this 40% increase in business starts. You haven't seen those numbers in Connecticut since 2006, 2007. So when I think about businesses that are going to hire, again, going back to, we need more people to do those jobs, come into the state or come out of come back into the labor force, we're seeing small businesses formed at a rate that you haven't seen in the state in 15 years. And I think that is quite positive. Broadly, as I'm thinking about the business environment, we do track, and our partners at Advanced ET are here to help out a lot. A lot of the business surveys, where Connecticut, going back, did not rank very well on many of these surveys for a variety of reasons, but we're trying to address that both in terms of reality as well as perception. So one of the surveys we think is the most balanced out there is CNBC's survey of best states for business. Connecticut, I think, in 2018 was 37th. We improved to 35th, again, not where we want to be in 2019, but last year we went to 24th. And things like business friendliness, ability to infrastructure in terms of internet in particular, we score very well on those things. So that 11-point jump in states, that was the second best. I think Maryland was one maybe higher than us. But you are seeing a change in perception in terms of how Connecticut is seen, especially in an area where there's a hybrid economy, I think, is here to stay for many businesses, not for all businesses. And I think you saw that in the migration into Connecticut, where we saw over 30,000 families net move into Connecticut over the past 2.5 years. Most of which from New York, but you also saw net migration from Massachusetts, New Jersey, California, and Washington, D.C. So again, we're tracking these numbers. If we want to grow the economy, it's important that we grow the population and that we welcome population growth, in my opinion, certainly for the long term. So that's going to continue to be a big focus, is tracking a lot of these surveys and making sure that the right data is in front of the decision makers in some of these surveys, because I feel like perception has not been our friend at times. Again, I'm not saying everything was roses, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're changing perception. At the same time, we're addressing a lot of the issues that are out there and need to be addressed. So on that point, let's talk about the state's finances, which I think has long been an issue for the state, but here there's incredibly positive news. So the state will end this third year in a row with a surplus, third consecutive year in a row with a surplus. And I didn't realize this. I was in the private sector, as the mayor mentioned, for about 20 years, and I just paid my taxes and got my driver's license. I didn't think about surpluses and deficits in Hartford. But there's been a lot of deficits. And now we have a third year in a row with a surplus. It could be upwards of $4 billion, which is so significant. And a lot of that's a function of incremental income tax receipts, sales tax receipts, as well as other business and real estate conveyance taxes. So obviously there's been a lot of fiscal and monetary stimulus all across the country. We're seeing that in Connecticut, record tax receipts for the third year in a row. And what are we doing with that? So last year, and the governor's been very, very vocal, no new taxes, no raising taxes. The state's tried that in the past, and it just hasn't worked. So the governor's the first business person in 30 years to run the state, very pragmatic, centrist in terms of how he thinks about things and makes decisions, been very vocal about not raising taxes. So that money has really gone into two places. Primarily, it's gone to pay down pension debt. So there was a $1.6 billion payment to our unfunded pension obligations last year, and this year there could be roughly a $2 billion payment to our unfunded pensions. So round numbers, again, I realize I'm throwing a lot of data here. I can follow up with a slide deck if anyone wants it, or not. The unfunded pension obligation is roughly $40 billion, and that was created over 7 years. I do a lot of these talks, and I hear this is not a Democrat or Republican thing. No one wanted to fund pensions for literally 3 generations in this state. Under Malloy, it started getting funded on an annual basis back in 2011. That pension was re-amortizing it over roughly a 30-year period, I think is how this will be dealt with. Now, in addition to the required payments, there was that incremental payment last year, and there'll be an incremental $2 billion payment this year. So, again, not all roses, but getting that long-term debt in place is critical to the state. And when I talk to folks about an investment in Connecticut, I really hear 3 issues, one of which is the state's finances and can you address unfunded pensions? And the answer is yes, it's going to take some time, but I think you can do that under the current tax regime, meaning not raising taxes. Secondly is infrastructure, and we could talk a bit more about that as well. And third is workforce and talent. Can I get the people I need to make sure I have a best-in-class business? But just finishing up on state's finances, so you had a bipartisan budget that was passed last year. They're working on amendments right now. You continue to see these record tax receipts come in from the activity that's happening in the state and really across the board. It's not just, a lot of folks think, oh, it's just a function of what's happening in the stock market. That's not the case. It's pretty broad in terms of the tax receipts that we've seen. In addition, you have a rainy day fund, and our rainy day fund in Connecticut is capped at 15% of the budget, just around $3.5 billion, and it's been there now for over 2 years, I believe. So you have a cushion when and if you see that recession. I should say when a recession comes, whether it's next year or 5 years, you don't know. So you don't need to raise taxes or cut services right away. So the state didn't have that rainy day fund for really decades. So you're paying down pensions, you're making the required payments to pensions, and you have a really, really best-in-class rainy day fund. Don't just take my word for this. Last year, and I'm not a politician, hopefully I don't sound like one yet, but you've had the rating agencies that rate Connecticut's debt. All 4 of them upgraded the state of Connecticut. Some hadn't done that in 20 years as a function of the increased fiscal performance in the state and the increased health in the state, and the focus on getting the fiscal house in order. So again, Connecticut, we're in the best shape we've been in quite some time. Not out of the woods at all, but I think there is a plan to deal with the pensions, which is the big issue, and I think it can and will be managed. So happy to take any questions about that, but I think there's really positive news on that front. Just 2 more things I'll touch on, and then I'll take some questions if there are any. Infrastructure. So this really is one of the big issues, and Connecticut's the 4th or 5th most densely populated state, so we don't have these big greenfield areas for new housing tracts or at times new manufacturing facilities for that matter. So we need to be very deliberate in terms of where we place things, how we grow in particular. But the bipartisan infrastructure bill is a bit of a game changer. So you're going to see over $6 billion of funding come into the state. You'll start to see projects happen soon. It'll happen over the next 5 to 10 years. But it's $4 billion to improve roads and bridges. And you're going to see another $2 billion in terms of improvements focused on mass transit, EV charging, broadband, really across the board in the state. So that's federal money. The state puts up roughly 20% to get that federal money. But these are significant projects. I think the challenge here is there's inflation going on. Every other state is going to be trying to do the same significant projects. Does that slow things down? But I think there's a real opportunity here for the New Haven rail line, for example, or Tweed Airport, to make sure that we continue to make sure there are investments in best-in-class infrastructure, because getting around the state can be a real issue. And I hear it a lot from businesses in terms of what's on their mind, and the more we can simplify that, because it's going to be tough to widen 95. I don't think that's going to happen in much of the state. Making sure we have better mass transit and better airports in particular, and broadband, which I think is a strength of ours, but we need to make sure we stay on the forefront, is going to be really critical to our economic success in the future. And last comment I'll make is on workforce and talent. So in 2019, when the governor got into office, he put in place a governor's workforce council. We looked at a lot of states and how they think about workforce. Colorado, even Rhode Island had one, Maryland. Best-in-class states that really focused on workforce had a workforce council that was really reported up to the governor, where you had the private sector, you had educators, as well as lawmakers at the table, but you had the private sector leading the way. It wasn't government saying, this is what I think you guys need. It was the private sector saying, this is what we need, how can you get it to us? And that's the dialogue that's happening right now. A woman named Kelly Valerius, some of you may know her, heads that council, but there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of partnerships with the private sector focused on certificates, training, and there was over $100 million in the last budget to focus on upskilling and reskilling folks. Again, we need to get our workforce participation back into the high 60s to make sure our economy truly grows. So I don't want to overstay my welcome here, especially in this beautiful venue. So I'm happy to take any questions if there are any, or I can let you guys get back to dinner and wine.
Nobody wants to.
I was just please, sir.
Perry Maresca, Branford Economic Development. You mentioned broadband and you mentioned the 95. 2 things that are very important to our town. Broadband, I think it will help every single town, big, small, city, whatever. I think that's a main focus that can help everybody in the state. On a more, I'll say selfish, and Exit 53 has been an issue for us for decades. You're not old enough to remember the tolls, I'm sure, but we had tolls back then, and they didn't have exits right before, and they didn't have entrance right after the toll. So that's why there's only 2 ways in and out. That's very important for developing an area that is in need of it. And we're starting to develop it now. So whatever guidance you can give us in that respect, I would appreciate as well. Broadband is number one, I think, for everybody here.
Sure. Yeah. On the exit 53, and yeah, I think I was old enough, but I lived in New Jersey. I married a Connecticut girl, which is like, I got here the old-fashioned way. So, on broadband, and 100% agree. The question is, how can we do it in a cost-efficient way? But at the same time, make sure that we're on the forefront. Because if you look at objective broadband surveys on where Connecticut stands, we're 1, 2, or 3, depending on the survey. And in most of the states, certainly in the Stamford to New Haven up to Springfield corridor, very, very strong. But as you get into Northwest and certainly Northeast Connecticut, it becomes less so. So I think there's going to need to be a balance there in terms of the capital money that's coming in, and are there creative ways? The governor's a big proponent of working with the private sector. So there is going to be a lot of focus on it. In particular, there's a new, so Mark Bauer, who used to be the mayor of Danbury, is now the head of revenue services for Governor Lamont. He's effectively the chief infrastructure officer. So that's a huge focus of his right now, so expect more to come on that. Same thing on exit 53. I'm familiar with the area. I've been on and off there, but I don't know the full history. My recommendation is, coming to DOT, DCD, coming together at the same time and understanding what that economic benefit could be, because that's how I want to make sure we prioritize this stuff. It's not just where's the deferred maintenance, it's where's the deferred maintenance or other issues and the potential for a bigger business park for bioscience.
Exactly.
So I'm happy to work with you hand in hand on that.
Good. Thank you.
Yes?
How is the governor addressing renewable energy in the state?
So renewables, are multifaceted. So first off was Millstone. So the nuclear plant in Waterford, for those that don't know, is significant and a significant energy producer. And there was a 10-year agreement, I believe, the governor put into place when he got in office in 2019 with Dominion. And I know some people are divided on nuclear. I think it's needed and important, and it does fit the bill. Beyond that, offshore wind has been the focus, and there's been 3 procurements now, I believe, over 2 gigawatts in aggregate. So offshore wind, the issue there is lead time. And here there's a balance as well, because the more we talk about renewables, and I think everyone realizes that's where we're going, and the governor has a focus of getting there by 2040, but electricity costs in Connecticut are already very, very high. And that's not just a Connecticut issue. This whole generating electricity in the New England region is expensive, just the cost of getting natural gas here and then turning that into electricity. So I think there's going to be a balance. It's going to be, in my opinion, nuclear. You're going to see continued focus on wind, continued focus on solar. I'd like to say that there's going to be hydro options, but I just think those are complicated, and we don't control our own destiny with hydro, given what's going on in New York. So wind, then solar, then nuclear, I think is going to be a focus, and we're just going to need to make sure there's a balance where electricity costs need to be monitored very, very carefully, because we don't want to go, in my opinion, we don't want to go too quickly where businesses just can't handle that, because that would be self-defeating, and you wouldn't have folks to use that electricity once you get there in 2035 or 2040. So
Economic developer came to Connecticut. What sector do you see growth in coming into Connecticut? Now, we all know we're a bedroom town. We're stuck between Boston, New York, and Long Island. Most people moving here were because of COVID. But before COVID, we were on a mass exodus. People were leaving like crazy because of the tax structure and things like that. Now, it's really super important, as you know, small business and economic development, right, guys? So, me as a private sector guy, entrepreneur, I have a few different businesses in different industries. Does the state have any idea of which direction we're heading for private sector? I know defense, obviously, but thank God for that. Thank God for our institutions like universities and our public education systems. Where are we headed? Just as if I'm trying to throw you out of softball.
Yeah, let me get my crystal ball. It didn't feel like a softball, but it was softball received. And I'm definitely not king. I know we can't use the word czar anymore, especially. So on, when you look, so there's been over 30 businesses now, if you look at who's relocated or grown in Connecticut since COVID. And many of them are New York businesses, and it's companies like ITT, Fortune 1000, Philip Morris, Fortune 500. You're seeing headquarters, and I think just the caliber of the workforce, and a lot of people want to be here for the education, the healthcare, the quality of life. So I think you're going to see what I generally call headquarters jobs, and you're not going to hang your shingle fully on them. But there's a lot of focus on fintech, and I think that's one of the big opportunities, in particular in the Stanford area, what was a banking market in Digital Currency Group, which is one of, if not the biggest in the fintech and crypto space, moved their offices to Stanford from New York City. They're bringing 300 jobs, and you're already seeing several offshoots. They invest in 200 companies. So I think fintech, insurtech, and kind of that next generation of financial services is a growth area for us. We can debate, in a world where you have jobs being remote, and I think this is one of the big opportunities and challenges. It used to be the company is where the CEO wants to be. And right now, you're seeing a lot more power to the worker, especially in a tight labor market where, maybe a CEO wants to be in New Canaan or Greenwich or Stanford or wherever, but half of his workforce is remote. And they might want to be in Wyoming or Texas. We don't know. So I think one of the takeaways that I feel very convicted on is we need to make sure our marketing as a state is actually to the individual, to the family, not just to the CEO. But going back to the sector question, I think it is manufacturing, aerospace, and defense. I do think healthcare, especially in an aging country, is an area, and not all healthcare you can export, meaning we want to make sure that we're doing healthcare, creating drugs here, R&D, et cetera, that are going beyond Connecticut and beyond the U.S. ideally. And you're seeing more of that. Yale in particular, you guys have seen this. There's an announcement of a 500,000 square foot building that the state co-invested in, new lab space, new incubator called 101 College. We're talking about that next generation. So I think we want to continue to invest in our small to mid-sized cities and focus on sectors where we have an edge, like the ones I mentioned, and where the macro trend is in our favor, i.e. aging or disruption in financial services. That's going to happen whether Connecticut's part of it or not, and we're focused on where we have an edge and where we can compete. So complicated question, I'm seeing a lot of eyes glazed over, Andy, so I'm going to stop there. But I can talk about that all night. All right, any final questions? Well, I really appreciate, I'll stick around for a while. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to everyone, and great to see all the great stuff happening here in North Branford. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We appreciate you being here. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us in this amazing facility, Millpond Gathering. I'm Elizabeth Kaplan. I'm the chair of the Economic Development Commission. I am going to now ask our members to stand up, and I am going to announce them by name because I think it's really important that you understand we're all volunteers, and there's a lot of volunteers in this community. Our town council are volunteers, our board of ed are volunteers, and I think those people really is what make our town and make our town work. And I think it's very important that our team here with economic development, I really appreciate them and their energy. So I have Barbara Altieri. Stand up, please. Dan Arman. Scott Small. Melissa Pantaleo, and Pete Stodolnik. He could not be here this morning. And of course, you all know and love Roger. Please stand up. So Mike, thank you. You took all my thank yous, so I'm really glad I don't have to talk too much. But I do want to just talk to you about some of the goodies on your tables that you have. You have some sunflower seeds. We have a sunflower project in town. We give out free seeds to individuals and businesses, and it helps our pollinators. We know our bee population is in trouble, and we want to do our share as a community to help that population. So please take the seeds home with you. We also have our agritourism brochure, our farm and trail guide. Please take that with you as well. It's a wonderful culmination over years of different spots in town we want you to visit. Again, trying to promote what we have, the beauty, the bucolic nature of North Branford. And also on your table is a sheet with a QR code. We have partnered with a local business, Local is Good, and Local is Good has created a communications platform in the community. One of their principals is here tonight, Nick Green, to talk about it. And if you get a chance to please scan the QR code, which is also in our Farm and Trail Guide. And Local is Good is about promoting what is going on in North Branford. And you are starting to see it around the community. We have the QR codes in store windows throughout the community. It's events, it's sales, it's whatever businesses and different entities are promoting, and it's a phenomenal brainchild with Local is Good. And so let me just segue, and thank you, David, for your really interesting insight in the state of Connecticut and coming to our community. We appreciate that you come here. We know we're a small community and that we matter, and that we appreciate that you come and you talk and you enlighten us as to what's going on. We watched this facility come to be over the last bunch of months organizing this event, and we appreciate the generosity of Millpond and having us here and watching it grow and change. And, you know, it takes a vision. It takes somebody with passion and vision and love and desire to make their community better. And Andy that is quintessential Andy Bizzuto. I've known him a long time. Our kids went to school together. And when I saw this facility getting built and growing and changing, it makes you verklempt. You know, it really makes you feel like somebody really cares. And Andy truly cares. And when you talk to him, you learn so much. And you're going to hear a lot about how this beautiful thing came to be. And we're so honored that he has chosen North Branford to make this investment, not for only the present, but for the future. And we thank you, Andy, for your love and your perseverance and your passion. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Andy Bizzuto.
Thank you, Lizzie. That was a little much, but thank you, Lizzie.
Love you, bro.
Yeah, how does a big ham get up and cover that now?
We have the hook ready.
I guess the best way to explain my madness is probably we are a small community, we are a small town, we are definitely the bedroom town that I spoke to you about on a state level. There's not a lot of reasons to come, but there's plenty of reasons to stay, right? If it's on our beautiful homes, we got schools, we got all the volunteers, it's really a great thing. That starts way back a long time ago when I was a hellion and probably wasn't the best student at North Branford High, and didn't really make it through high school. That being said, my dad had a wonderful little garbage company. We owned John's Refuse and Bizzuto Karting and Bizzuto Brothers. In case you didn't know, that's where this all originated. So I've been in business my whole life. And when I got out of school, you know, I probably did a year of silliness. And I came back to my parents and I said, you know, I'm going to run the garbage company. And at that time, it wasn't really cool to be a garbage guy. My mom was a little disappointed. She said I had plans of Cheshire Academy and all these great things. You know, and I said, I know, Mom, but my butt can't sit in that seat longer than 20 minutes. I got to get up and go, you know. But that being said, she sat me down and we had a talk. And she said, you know, you chose a hard life. It's going to be full of labor and a difficult trail because it's not a fancied business in that sense. She said, but if you're lucky enough to be successful, it's going to be because of your surroundings. It's going to be your community support. It gets hard. The truth is, that's exactly why we did the project. Been very successful. I had 4 different companies. I had the marijuana company in Connecticut, license number 2. I've done a lot of different things. I've been at Stanford U, Berkeley. I am the living Forrest Gump. Whenever you guys have time, I could tell you till the cows come home the stuff I've been through. But that being said, it doesn't make me special. I think what did make me special was that I adhered to what she said. She said that if you're lucky enough to be successful to give back to your community, it's easy to write a check to the cancer fund or whatever these other plausible donations are, but her suggestion was to put it back where you got it. Put it back into your community with your neighbors, with your supporters that got you to where you were. So that drove me to this project. As much as we're having a grand old time here, this isn't new. This goes back to 1780 and the first ladle in America being patented here on this site. I don't know if any of you know that, but the coconut ladle in America with a wooden handle was patented here at Millpond. And there's foundations. I welcome you to, when we get done here and you walk around, you take a look. That was the relevancy. The souls, I had to talk with someone here about ghosts earlier. And I've been waiting for them ghosts a long time. I sit here at night like, come on down, I got a lot of questions. Where's my dad, my mom? Do you know anything about Lotto? I mean, can you pick a number? But I've never been lucky enough to have the conversation. But truly the passion, my brothers and I, my family, I come from 7. And again, it was a hard road, but we did it through tenacity. We stuck together and we're still together today. They run the garbage company. I run in the restaurant. It was really about the property in our community. The second part of the story is this thing that started in 1780 was a guy named Thaddeus Maltby. I'm going into history a little here. We have a street named Maltby Lane. And an incubator, literally guys, early American incubator. This guy not only thought of companies, he tooled them. And he not only tooled them, he patented the tools. There's 9 patents, 11 companies that were started here. The guy was wicked before his time. He's as big as Eli Whitney, but nobody knows it. So I think part of my mission is to actually preserve some of what was there, make sure we know about hydropower. We talked about renewable energy. For the life of me, I don't know why we're not harnessing some of the water. It's 24/7. It doesn't take a sun or wind. I know it's an antichrist in our state with dams, but water runs and it doesn't stop. So some of that madness still predecesses me, but my goal is to actually see if we could resurrect. Kids today don't even know what a phone booth is, let alone not having electricity to just flip a switch. So I just think the importance of that is really a big priority in my life to finish, but the project was driven upon preservation of history and again, my community because of what we are. The second part of that I was started on and finishing, the reasons farmers are failing is because they don't have retail. I've been blessed to be in several different businesses and own them all, sell them and make money along the way. I have 150 acres, 400 Angus. I got bison, I got goats, and I got hogs. And that farm hasn't made money in 20 years. I was certified in organic vegetables. Again, the story gets deep. The fact was, as a farmer, I saw the failures and the reasons that they couldn't make money was because there's a middleman or two in between them and retail. By making retail for farmers, it really makes it valuable. I built this place because I wanted to put my cattle right through here. I sell my cattle at $1.30 to the auctioneers a pound, about a $2,000 steer. By taking that cow through my own butcher, serving it through my own restaurant, I go to $7,000, $8,000. So that was my example, and I figured that if he was an incubator that could start companies, tool it, and patent it, that I should be somebody that could start a project that may mean something in the future. Guys, this isn't farm to table. This is the table at the farm. And everything we do here is served farm straight. All them vegetables this year, that's our seed. I've already afforded to pay him. I bought his seed, he's putting it in, it's for this restaurant. All my cattle come down the street. I got 150 acres in Wallingford. You guys know how many acres I rent from you. It's about freshness. I think it's going to be super important. This pandemic showed us a couple of things. Let's hope it doesn't hit our food service, our food sources next time, because as much as it did what it did to us this time, it can really magnify quite quickly in our food sources. So anyways, that's my story. I think that we should just now call it a day and go have some drinks and cocktails, finish the food that's here. And I'd love to give, I know I got about 8 tours lined up, so whenever you guys are ready, we can start.
Thank you, Andy. That was fantastic. I'd like to ask Dee Jacobs to come up here from the Chamber. Again, thank you to the Chamber for their partnership in this event.
Thanks, Liz. Shoreline Chambers proudly says it serves North Branford, Guilford, and Branford. We really love this community and everything it stands for, and love to see growth and development. And in particular, we're happy to see a new bank down the road in Guilford Savings Bank with their Norford office. During the pandemic, Guilford Savings Bank opened 2 new branches, and they are truly a rare breed. They are a community bank. They are about community. They are about giving back to the community, the many hundreds of thousands of dollars that they invest back into communities and supporting nonprofits and those in need. Just as a small part about what they do. We want to thank you for saying yes to sponsoring this event so that we could really experience Millpond gatherings and all the wonderfulness of it. It's my pleasure to just to point out a few people from Guilford Savings Bank. If you haven't been to the Norford office, you should stop by and say hello to Jeff. Jeff over here is our branch manager, Jeff Hanrahan. And we have with us the CEO and President, Tim Gielen, right over here. Thank you, Tim. But the person that I get to introduce is Dave Finnerty. I'm just going to ask Dave to stand for 1 minute and sit down. Need I tell you that Dave was a Marine? Hoorah. Dave not only served in the Marine, he was a member of the Connecticut Air National Guard, and he served his country for 2 years in Operation Enduring Freedom, earning the Bronze Star for his meritorious service. So thank you, David. Leadership skills in terms of the military translate very well into corporate America, but also into our hometown business area. And David has used his leadership and his learnings and his knowledge across various banks and settled into Guilford Savings Bank in 2015. And he serves today as the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. He gives back to his community, a principle of GSB, and we're so happy that he said yes to say a few words to you tonight. David Finnerty.
Thanks. Let's see. How do I follow that and the first two? By the way, thanks, Andy, for setting me up for a long speech. But since we've said a lot of thanks, and I have it written down, we're going to go through it again, so I apologize. But I'd like to thank Roger Soloway. It was a great meeting and putting this together. Dee Jacob and the Shoreline Chamber of Commerce, of course, EDC as well, for their collaborative efforts in pulling all this together. Yes, here. Mike Wallace, Mayor Jeff McMillan, Commissioner David. Hey, I got there the same way, except it was New York. I married a Tollandite, so yes. All Economic Development Committee members, business leaders, town and North Branford representatives. It's always an honor and a privilege to be able to support events such as this, bringing local businesses together to enhance opportunities for economic success in our communities and Connecticut as a whole. When I think about the communities we work in, live and support, and I looked at the mission of both the EDC and the Shoreline Chamber, there are similarities with GSB. Just wanted to point some of those out. First, with the Shoreline Chamber, and I'm paraphrasing, so D, enhance opportunities, economic success, benefit of the community, committed to the value-added benefits to their members, education, development of your business and your staff. For the EDC, make recommendations to improve economic conditions and development, coordinate activities, understand trends and conditions impacting local businesses and communities they operate in, improve the vitality of the business community, utilize resources to aid in bringing business to North Branford. The makeup, when I look at the commission, is not that dissimilar to the makeup of the bank when you think about it. We have those that represent the business community, They're on our board, business leaders themselves, leaders in the community, and live in our communities. We have lending professionals and employees who are invested in those communities as they've grown up in them, they've raised families in them, and they have a vested interest in the continued growth and watching them thrive, driven by the success of the businesses that are in them. Then I look at GSB's mission and vision. Our mission: provide comprehensive financial solutions to individuals, families, and businesses, predicated on mutually beneficial, strong, and lasting relationships. You can hear that there's a common theme through some of the earlier speakers. Our vision: guided by our values and unwavering commitment to improve the lives of those served, we endeavor to be the preeminent independent bank in Connecticut. Referencing those values, there are a few I just want to briefly mention. Independence: remain a strong mutual financial institution to engage with the communities that we serve. Commitment: through meaningful philanthropy of financial resources and human resources, we are catalysts in improving the quality of life for our neighbors. Relationships: with integrity and earned trust, we build long-standing relationships as a result of consistent service excellence. Creativity: through shared ideas, continuous improvement, and leadership, we invite new thinking that responds to and anticipates needs. And stewardship: aware we are a community institution, not only a financial institution, we invest wisely in ourselves, others, and tomorrow. I would like to call this concept patient capital. We are not chasing quarterly results, but rather are making investments in the long-term viability and development of the bank and the communities we serve and live in. As I read through the various mission statements, the theme emerged that I feel tie all these entities together. It's providing the environment that allows for opportunities to succeed, improving the lives of those we serve, investing back into those communities, trust and long-standing relationships. The most notable example I want to bring up in the recent years is the impact of the pandemic had on our local businesses. And through PPP, GSB rallied to support those in our community. At GSB, we not only served our existing clients, but found ways for any business in our communities to gain access to PPP assistance, as we believe this was part of our duty to support the communities we are a part of. One of the things when you hear about they call it a small community bank, I really don't like that kind of word, small, like small business. No one likes that. We're a business, we're a bank. You think of what are those product offerings that you have? What can you bring to bear? So when you think about that from a business perspective, commercial lending, CRE, owner-occupied, C&I loans, commercial mortgages, term loans, revolving lines of credit. Right? We enjoy the benefits of local underwriting, getting to know you and understanding the communities that you're working in. You're not just a number, but we truly get to know you. We have business checking accounts, savings accounts, money markets, CDs, cash management products to make things easier, and services, online banking, positive pay to help combat fraud, ACH wires, remote deposit capture, auto books, just to name a few. Knowing that business leaders, owners, employees are also residents of the communities, we look beyond the business relationship and look to see how we can also help create success on the personal side. With that, we have residential and consumer lending. We have conventional fixed rate mortgages, 30 years to 10 years, adjustable rate mortgages, biweeklies, construction to perm, home equity lines of credit, and home equity loans. Personal checking, savings, money markets, online banking again, mobile apps, remote deposit capture. We have a subsidiary, Gray Ledge Advisors, for investing needs. They're there to provide services to individuals, charitable organizations, private businesses, and financial institutions. 25% of Gray Ledge's business is related to private company retirements, such as 401ks, deferred compensation plans, as well as defined benefit and defined contribution plans. Gray Ledge services companies with retirement plans with one participant up to our largest, which is 118. We provide consultation to business owners in areas such as succession planning, business valuations, and estate plan issue spotting. We will provide a retirement plan diagnostic free of charge. So as you look at that, you can really see GSB is truly a full-service bank with the products and services to help you be successful, whether that be for your personal, your business, or your family. Our number one differentiator is our commitment to the highest levels of excellence and service to our customers and, again, to the communities we serve. Combined, GSB and Gray Ledge Advisors have been increasing our community involvement like never before, starting with our commitment to local nonprofits. Dedicated members of the combined team sit on 60 nonprofit boards and committees, volunteering their time and lending their expertise to help communities grow with nearly 11,000 hours in the past year. We believe that to create a strong community tomorrow, it's up to us to invest our time and dollars today. As we grow, our investment in our community will grow with it. We are working with more organizations in our community than ever before to create meaningful partnerships, lending our skills and our expertise to help them fulfill their missions. As we slowly come out of the past 2 years and continue to tackle the existing challenges we all face, we're also preparing for the new challenges we'll face going forward. We take on a hopeful, yet cautionary, view of the future, and in doing so, we need to ask ourselves, how do we continue to work together and provide the needed support of the new products and services, forums and education to help you navigate the new waters ahead. GSB is here to help with those conversations and have been since 1875. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. So I'm the infamous Roger Solway, and I need to tell you we've got 3 surprises that are not on the agenda, and one of them is Kristen. You're going to come up and tell us what's going on? And can we get to sync? Can you come and join us too? There we go.
Thank you, Roger. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Great. Okay. So good evening, everybody. My name is Kristen Gorski. I work for the town of West Hartford as their economic development coordinator. Tonight, I have the pleasure to join you as the president of the Connecticut Economic Development Association, or Cetus. So Cetus, which thankfully North Branford are members of, we are so happy about that. Cetus is the statewide organization of economic development professionals. We work to advance the practices of economic development through our work. So our membership represents full-time, part-time EDC members from private, public, and nonprofit organizations. We represent multi-disciplines, real estate, attorneys, everybody who is interested in helping us to support our state. So we have some really exciting news here tonight. As Roger said, a surprise. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, to St. Williams from Advanced CT, to kick this off.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces in the crowd, David, Lindy, and thank you for the invitation, Roger. So I'm the co-chair for the Cetus Best Practices Committee and Business Associate at Advanced CT. And so the Best Practices Certification Program was launched in 2019 and was widely successful with 24 towns being accredited. And then this year, we relaunched it, and we had 12 communities actually apply. And the great news is that North Branford had received a silver certification, and we wanted to come and congratulate you guys for that. And just for some background, the Best Practices Certification Program was created for the sake of providing a standard for best practices in economic development and land use among communities in Connecticut, and to recognize communities like North Branford that use established best practices. It also is kind of in place to drive communities to further improve their economic development policies and plans, and that's basically what North Branford exhibited through their application process. And a program like this encourages a community and all of their departments to take a deep look into those policies and plans, and then interdepartmentally work to share the good things that are happening, but also look at the areas of improvement that exist. So North Branford, you received a silver certification, and we wanted to just congratulate personally Mayor, I have to get your name right, Jeff McMillan, Roger, and the Economic Development team for all the hard work that they put in for this application process. I knew it wasn't easy, but here we are at the end, and you received silver. And for next steps, our committee is looking forward to recognizing you among your peers and some of our Cetus members at the award ceremony that we have planned for May 24th. And the location is to be decided, but it will be announced soon. So thank you again for the time, and thanks again for the invitation, Roger. It could be.
I just very quickly wanted to say that, I just, again, as everybody said, how do you follow? The speeches tonight were great. This is a tremendous place, but you can tell how passionate this community is, and we're so excited. And the fact that we get to make an announcement in person here about North Branford and your silver certification. This is the first announcement that we've made for this year's best practices. So we've been holding this tight and working very closely with Roger, and we're just excited to be able to announce this and celebrate it with all of you. So thank you for having us.
We expect gold next year.
I'm told it's never been yet, but if anybody should get gold, it should be David, Lane's team. Right, come on.
The first gold certification.
Okay. I'm going to invite Dave Sargent. Dave is the president of the Land Trust, and part of the plan of conservation and development, there is a big part of conservation too. So Dave, please take it.
Thank you, Roger. Hello, everyone. What a great crowd we have here tonight. Kind of briefly, 10 years ago, our land trust was looking through all the properties in North Branford to find quality land that would remain as open space. In the past couple of years, we've started to pick on those properties and acquire them. So it's kind of like connecting the dots. One property may not have everything, but you put a bunch of properties together and we get something going. One of the Plan of Conservation Development's goals is to create trails. North Branford doesn't have very many trails. We're changing that. In the past 2 years, we've added several miles of trails. But we're working with our partners around us, Guilford Land Trust, North Branford Open Space, and we're making connections to their trails, which will connect us to trails outside of our town, and we'll hopefully get this thing going. So we'll be able to connect from North Branford all through New England trail system. If you look on your table, there are these little cards here, and this is our latest fundraiser. It's our first and largest fundraiser of almost $600,000 to acquire 2 RWA properties. First time we've ever done this. We're taking a stab at it. We've already raised about $250,000, $260,000, but we're looking to our town and our business community partners to try to help raise the rest, and through grants, we'll hopefully get there by the end of the year. We'll see how it works. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for having us.
Next, I'm going to invite Nick to come and tell us what's going on with Local is Good.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me tonight. I will be brief. I know we want to get to Andy's bar. Or we could see David's slideshow if anyone would like. Very tough call. Maybe we can bring the slideshow to the bar. Thank you again very much for having me. My name is Nick Green, and me and my partner Lauren are super excited to bring our online communication platform, Local is Good, to North Branford, Northford, and Connecticut communities. As many of you know, when COVID hit, local restaurants, like so many other businesses, struggled to keep their doors open. Overnight, we had to change the way we marketed and talked to our customers, from coming in to dining to hoping that they would come take takeout, pick up curbside, or come get delivery if that was even an option. That's what we had to do to keep our doors open. And luckily, our community really supported us. They came out, and what they did is they ran to Facebook. They ran to Facebook on town pages, town group pages, and tried to really spread the word about who had takeout, who was doing dining, all of that. The problem with that communication platform there is if you're not on Facebook and you don't follow that specific person, or you're not a member of that specific group, you're not going to see those posts. So what my partner and I thought about doing was, let's change the way we look at advertising from the traditional big scale, let's get all of our messaging out to as many people as possible, and let's flip that. And let's try to make marketing and messaging specific to one specific town, the town that you're standing in right now. So whether you are starting a charity and doing a fundraiser, a town-sponsored 5K, you had a cool business that has a new sale, or you were doing a tag sale, we want your messaging to come out quickly, cost efficiently, and in a very specific area where the best people are going to get those messages, the people who benefit from it the most. So we created our platform. We call it Local is Good. Our platform is managed by the town and by its residents. And what it does is it gives visitors and any other interested party the opportunity to see what's going on in that specific town on any given day. Any town that signs up for Local is Good on our website, localisgood.net, will have its own unique landing page, which is linked to a QR code, which some of you can see on the tables there. So a quick click of the QR code, you're going to go to your town-specific landing page. On that page, you will see things that any user can add there, whether it be a message, an event, a business could post a sale or a listing. And all of those sales, listings, posts, creations, they go right on the landing page within minutes. Users do not have to enter any personal information. They do not have to sign up for the website. All of that information that is on the site is there for them to see immediately, sort of streamlining the entire process. The QR code, again, what we are here today to do is asking is if please any of our North Branford business members, if you, Roger, I believe, has some QR codes, window clings for us. We're asking if you can hang them somewhere where they can be seen or scanned, just as a way to help everyone in the business community, even if you're not going to use the site. But what you get when you click those is you're going to find where it has happy hour in town. What's going on? Does someone have a job posting? Are there houses for rent? And really anything that is going on in your town specific site, you can find right there through that QR code. We know this program is going to help a resident, a small business, or a visitor get their messaging out there quickly. Again, we are a North Branford small business. We are here for you guys if there's anything you need. If you have any questions, my partner and I are always available. But we are a member of this business community as well, and we just want to help everyone, even in tough times, and help this community thrive. So thank you very much.
If you'd like to come and join us. I have to tell you that we could not have done this event without Dee's team. Thank you so much, Dee and the Chamber.
Thank you. I wanted to recognize our Shoreline Chamber board members who came out tonight. I have our vice chair, our treasurer, and many of our board members, including Roger. So just stand up for a second. We want to thank you for your leadership. Roger asked me to share a little bit about a program that I envisioned when I started to interview for this job in August of last year. I met our vice chair at that time. Little did he know I had 102.5 degree fever from a reaction to a COVID shot. So the vision may have been impacted by the fever, or it might have really been a plan. But I'm a businesswoman. I have spent 4 decades out in business, helping business, being in business, running a business. And I was very, very concerned about our economy. And we were very fortunate. We had a lot of funds come through to help our businesses. But I drive along the main streets, the back roads, the pizza places, and there were signs, but there were struggles. Not every business, and we've been very blessed. So many businesses have done well, but not everyone. And so my concern was, how are we going to help those businesses in a way? And is the role of a chamber really to help the towns that we try to create economic vitality with? How do we help them? And how do we partner with our towns to find help for their businesses that isn't a check? And so the first pillar of what we call our Chamber Economic Boost program is one called Coaching for Business Success. We recruit local business people as well as professional coaches, and funded through a town's ARPA funds. We provide those coaches to do business engagements with small businesses, particularly who can't afford that kind of help, to focus not on all of the myriad of things that we all do as business people, but how do you know what the most important thing is, and what's the right solution set to go ahead and invest your time. So we're ramping that up in one of the towns, and we're still looking for funding in a couple other towns, hint, hint, North Branford. The second pillar is the Chamber video series. As a business person, I was running a restaurant and catering house 80 hours a week, 7 days a week, 80 hours a week, 7 days a week, doing everything. I did not have time to go to seminars, watch webinars on TV, whatever it was. And so our video series will be launching this summer with a series of 5-minute YouTube videos on specific how-tos for business where you can gain the knowledge that you want. And we will be partnering, once we get that funding, with Tutucket TV as our business partner to produce for the entire area. And we're very excited about that. Our third pillar is helping to find the money and to help our businesses navigate grant processes. We have some expertise that Dawn Jackson, who's with me tonight, is excellent in understanding grants and helping businesses find money when they do have solution sets that they need to invest in. That is not your typical chamber event, but it's something that we view as very much part of our vision and part of our mission, and we couldn't do it without partnering with our towns and without the support. And the very first people who heard about this was Roger. And Roger has provided some guidance and helped me to gather my thoughts and help me to create my pitch and my articulation in my white papers. And we thank you for that. And we are really, really wanting to have a meaningful role, not only in supporting all the growth that's in North Branford, but we want to help all the businesses that are here to be here for the future. Thank you.
All right, no more surprises. Would anyone else like to get up and say anything about it? All right. I have one request. Number one, Andy, can we come back next year? Where did he go? Can we be back? Does anyone want to object to that idea? No? Okay. David, we'd love to have you back next year too. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the evening.